Killer B. Killer B is the standard by which every other perfect Jinchuuriki gets measured. When people talk about what it means to truly master a tailed beast, B is the gold standard, the guy who makes it look so effortless that you forget how impossibly rare what he's doing actually is. He's the Jinchuuriki of Gyūki, the Eight Tails, and he didn't just tame one of the most powerful bijuu in existence. He befriended it. There's a massive difference between those two things, and understanding that difference is key to understanding why B stands in a category all by himself. Let's rewind to how B even became a perfect Jinchuuriki, because the path matters. B was chosen as Gyūki's host after the previous Jinchuuriki lost control and went on a rampage that killed 8 people, including the father of B's childhood friend Motoi. That's the context he inherited. The village saw him as a container, a necessary evil to keep their ultimate deterrent from going berserk again. Kids his age feared him. Adults kept their distance. B could have easily turned bitter, resentful, angry at the beast inside him for ruining his life before it even started. Instead, he chose a different path entirely. He decided to smile through it, to prove that a Jinchuuriki could be more than a monster, and he worked relentlessly to master Gyūki, so his brother A wouldn't suffer politically when he became the 4th Raikage. That mindset, that determination to shoulder the burden for someone else's sake, created the foundation for what came next. The relationship between B and Gyūki is built on mutual respect and genuine friendship. Gyūki isn't a prisoner in B's body, it's a partner. When B needs more chakra, Gyūki gives it willingly. When someone tries to trap B in genjutsu, Gyūki disrupts the chakra flow to snap him out of it automatically. They operate as one consciousness in 2 forms, and that harmony unlocks abilities that forced Jinchuuriki simply cannot access. B can enter version 1 transformation with all 8 tails manifested. He can go into version 2, that full bijuu chakra cloak state, while maintaining complete control over his actions and strategy. Then there's tailed beast mode, where he fully transforms into Gyūki's complete form, and even in that state, B is the one in the driver's seat. He can fire multiple tailed beast balls in rapid succession like artillery strikes. He can spin Gyūki's tentacles to generate massive tornadoes. He can regenerate severed tentacles mid-battle. He also can do partial transformations, manifesting just parts of Gyūki's body while keeping his human form intact. He'll grow a tentacle arm to extend his reach in combat. He'll sprout all 8 tentacles from his back to attack from multiple angles simultaneously. He can produce ink from his mouth, using Gyūki's octopus trait to blind enemies, write his rap lyrics mid-fight because yes, he's actually that confident, or create ink clones that can seal opponents on contact. The level of body control this requires is insane. We're talking about someone who can toggle between human and bijuu anatomy like flipping a light switch, with 0 lag time and 0 loss of awareness. Yeah, his guy soloed the entire Taka squad, which included Sasuke Uchiha with Mangekyo Sharingan, Suigetsu, Karen, and Jugo. He fought Kisame Hoshigaki, one of Akatsuki's strongest members, to a standstill. Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, and arguably one of the smartest tactical minds in the series, called B a ninja with great power, not just a Jinchuuriki. That distinction matters. Minato wasn't impressed by Gyūki. He was impressed by B himself. Naruto Uzumaki's journey to becoming a perfect Jinchuuriki is the most documented, the most dramatic, and honestly the most earned transformation in the entire series. Naruto had to claw his way from the absolute bottom, from being the worst possible Jinchuuriki scenario you could imagine, to eventually forming a bond with Kurama that became the strongest partnership between human and bijuu in shinobi history. Let's establish the starting point, because it matters. Naruto became Kurama's Jinchuuriki the day he was born, which meant he never knew life without the 9 tails inside him. But unlike B, who had Kumogakure's support system and training, or even Yagura, who had his village's acknowledgement, Naruto had nothing. Konoha feared him, isolated him, treated him like a ticking time bomb wrapped in human skin. The seal holding Kurama was strong, sure, but the relationship between them was pure hatred. Kurama despised being imprisoned. When Naruto accessed Kurama's chakra in the early days, it came through anger, desperation, and loss of control. He'd tap into that red chakra and get stronger, faster, more durable, but the fox's negative influence would make him more aggressive and reckless. Push it too far, manifest four tails or beyond, and Naruto would go full version 2, losing his mind entirely and needing outside intervention to bring him back. That's the opposite of mastery. That's a parasitic relationship where both parties suffer. The turning point came when Naruto realized he couldn't avoid Kurama's power. So Naruto did what he does best. He confronted the problem head-on. With Killer Bee's guidance, Naruto entered his own mind to face Kurama directly, to rip control away from the beast by force if necessary. The battle inside Naruto's subconscious was brutal. Kurama threw everything at him, all that accumulated rage and hatred from decades of being sealed, treated as a weapon, stripped of autonomy. But Naruto didn't just overpower Kurama, he understood him. He saw past the monster label and recognized the pain underneath, the same pain Naruto himself had carried his whole life. When Naruto succeeded in taking most of Kurama's chakra, he unlocked Nine-Tails chakra mode, this golden, glowing transformation that massively boosted his speed, strength, and durability. He could form tailed beast chakra arms from any part of his body and even sense negative emotions around him. But here's the catch. This wasn't true cooperation yet. This was Naruto forcibly borrowing power from a still hostile Kurama, which meant the chakra exchange could literally kill him if he pushed too hard. The actual perfect Jinchuuriki moment, the real transformation, happened when Kurama finally acknowledged Naruto. After watching Naruto's unwavering determination, his refusal to abandon his friends, his ability to change people's hearts, including former enemies, Kurama realized this kid never saw him as a tool. When Naruto learned Kurama's true name, they became friends, and that friendship unlocked Kurama's full power with zero drawbacks. The boost in physical parameters was insane. Naruto's resilience reached levels where he could tank the Ten Tails Tenpenchi attack and survive Tonari's Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion, a technique that cut the moon in half, without visible damage. He could store Kurama's chakra in his arm and throw punches that created craters on the lunar surface. But here's what makes Naruto's version of perfect Jinchuuriki status different from B's, and this is where people split into camps. B had decades to build his relationship with Gyūki gradually, naturally, through time and shared experiences. Naruto speedran the entire process in a fraction of that time through sheer force of will and his unique ability to connect with people, even a millennia-old chakra beast. Many people feel this process was too fast, that the author rushed the story. Even Obito, who spent decades consumed by hatred, suddenly switched sides after Naruto's speech. That also felt sudden and rushed, so it didn't feel convincing. What do you think? Minato Namikaze is the most unusual perfect Jinchuuriki case in the entire Naruto series. Why? This guy became the host of Kurama's yin half during the Nine-Tails attack on Konoha, sealed half the fox into himself and the other half into his newborn son Naruto, and then immediately died. And when he finally manifested as a Jinchuuriki during the Fourth Shinobi World War through Edo Tensei, he skipped the entire struggle phase that every other Jinchuuriki had to endure. Kurama's yin half gave him zero resistance. Instant cooperation, immediate access to Nine-Tails chakra mode, full partnership from the jump. The answer lies in something most people overlook. Minato wasn't a stranger to Kurama. Before the Nine-Tails was ever sealed into Minato or Naruto, Kurama spent decades inside Kushina Uzumaki, Minato's wife, and Naruto's mother. Kushina was the previous Jinchuuriki, and while she never achieved perfect status herself, she had a strong enough relationship with Kurama that the fox respected her strength and personality. Minato was around Kushina constantly. He knew about her burden, supported her through it, protected her when the seal weakened, and ultimately sacrificed his life to save both her and their son during the Nine-Tails extraction. Kurama witnessed all of this firsthand from inside Kushina. Actually, in the one shot that Kishimoto drew about Minato, he even fought the fox inside Kushina's mind. The fox saw Minato's kindness, his selflessness, his genuine love for Kushina, and his willingness to die to protect his family and village. When Minato sealed Kurama's yin half into himself, the fox already knew exactly what kind of person he was dealing with. Kurama respected Minato before they ever formally became host and bijuu. But there's another layer that makes Minato's perfect Jinchuuriki status even more automatic. By the time Minato was reanimated during the war, Naruto had already befriended Kurama's yang half, the other piece of the same fox. When the yang half accepted Naruto and formed that bond of friendship and trust, the yin half inside Minato inherited that emotional shift. Kurama as a whole entity had moved past the anger and hatred. Both halves were now willing partners with the Uzumaki Namikaze bloodline. The yin half just auto-accepted Minato based on pre-existing respect and Naruto's influence. It's the only case in the series where a Jinchuuriki achieved perfect status without any personal struggle or effort to bond with their bijuu. When Minato actually used Nine-Tails chakra mode, the results were exactly what you'd expect from someone with his skill level getting perfect Jinchuuriki powers. His form was slightly darker than Naruto's with different markings, but functionally identical. He could manifest chakra arms from his body to extend his reach and versatility. He could enter full tailed beast mode, transforming into Kurama's complete yin half form. He could create and fire tailed beast balls with the same destructive power Naruto wielded. He became capable of performing amped versions of all his usual techniques with Kurama's chakra backing them. The scaling potential was absolutely terrifying, and everyone watching, including the other Kage, was visibly impressed by how effortlessly he wielded that power. The tragedy of Minato's Jinchuuriki status is how brief it was. We got a glimpse, a teaser of the yellow flash with perfect Jinchuuriki powers, and then it was gone. Yagura. Yagura Karatachi represents one of the most paradoxical cases in the entire Naruto series when we examine perfect Jinchuuriki. This guy was the fourth Mizuka-ge of Kirigakure and the host of the Three Tails Isobu, with a reputation that put him in an elite category. We're talking about the third person in recorded shinobi history to achieve complete symbiotic control over a tailed beast while still alive. To put that in perspective, across centuries of Jinchuuriki hosts in many villages, only a few individuals ever reached this level. His combat capabilities reflected this mastery perfectly. Yagura could perform partial transformations at will, manifesting the Three Tails appendages mid-battle for devastating strikes. He could enter version 2 transformation, that red chakra cloak state that most Jinchuuriki lose their minds in, while maintaining complete tactical awareness and control. His tailed beast balls weren't wild desperation moves. They were precision weapons he could condense and fire strategically. Then there's Coral Palm, a signature technique that grows coral structures on any surface, trapping opponents in place like living shackles. But here's where Yagura's story becomes a minefield of contradictions, and honestly, this is what makes him so compelling to analyze. Obito Uchiha, during his campaign to destabilize the shinobi world, managed to place Yagura under genjutsu control for an extended period. He turned the Mizuka-ge into a puppet, orchestrating the Bloody Mist era's worst atrocities through him. Now stop and think about what that means. A perfect Jinchuuriki shouldn't fall victim to genjutsu. Period. That's one of the fundamental advantages of the perfect state. When someone tries to trap you in an illusion, your tailed beast partner disrupts your chakra flow from the inside, shattering the genjutsu instantly. It's an automatic defense mechanism that comes from having two consciousness systems in one body. Killer Bee demonstrated this multiple times. So how did Obito succeed where the technique should have failed? The leading theory in the community suggests Obito didn't just control Yagura. He simultaneously placed genjutsu on both Yagura and Isobu, essentially manipulating two separate entities at once. That would require an absurd level of ocular power and chakra reserves, but Obito had Mangekyo Sharingan and Hashirama cells, giving him the tools to potentially pull off something that broken. If this theory holds, it doesn't diminish Yagura's perfect Jinchuuriki status. It just means Obito was operating on a different tier entirely, using hacks that shouldn't exist in normal circumstances. But there's a darker alternative that a lot of fans refuse to consider. What if Yagura was never actually a perfect Jinchuuriki? What if the title was propaganda? A lie Kirigakure told itself because they needed to believe their Mizuka-ge was untouchable. His control could have been exceptional, far beyond most hosts, but not truly perfect. What's your take on this? Was Yagura legitimately perfect and Obito just that overwhelmingly powerful, or was his perfect status a lie from the start? Madara. Madara Uchiha represents an entirely different category of perfect Jinchuuriki. Why? Every other perfect Jinchuuriki we've talked about achieved their status through friendship, mutual respect, and emotional connection with their tailed beast. Madara threw that entire rulebook out the window because the 10 tails, the Jubi, doesn't operate like the other bijuu. It has no consciousness, no personality, no emotional capacity to befriend a host. The 10 tails is raw chakra given form, the original source of all tailed beasts. The primordial entity that existed before the Sage of Six Paths split it into 9 separate pieces. Becoming a perfect 10 tails Jinchuuriki isn't about building a relationship. It's about having the sheer willpower and strength to dominate pure, incomprehensible power without letting it tear you apart from the inside out. Look at Obito. Obito was strong, make no mistake. But when he absorbed the 10 tails, it nearly destroyed him. The beast's chakra was ripping through his body, destabilizing him physically and mentally. Obito struggled to maintain control. The 10 tails was constantly pushing against him, not out of malice or hatred like Kurama did with early Naruto, but because the sheer magnitude of its power was more than Obito's will could fully suppress. Madara, when he finally absorbed the 10 tails, made it look effortless. The difference wasn't just raw power, though Madara certainly had that in spades with his Rinnegan, his Uchiha chakra, and his body enhanced by Hashirama's cells. The difference was will. Madara's ambition, his absolute conviction that he would reshape the world into his vision, gave him a mental foundation that was unshakable. You see, his will was so strong that he never needed anyone as an ally. If anything, Obito was just a pawn to him. He was ready to fight the entire world to carry out the infinite Tsukuyomi plan, and during the Fourth Great Ninja War, it really felt like all of you have been surrounded by just me. If this guy lived in the One Piece world, his conqueror's haki would be insanely powerful. The 10 tails chakra flooded into him, and instead of struggling to contain it like Obito, Madara just absorbed it and moved forward like it was nothing. He then went a step further and absorbed the God Tree itself, which elevated his power to a level approaching the Sage of Six Paths. At that point, Madara wasn't just a Jinchuuriki. He was a pseudo-god, wielding truth-seeking orbs, Six Paths techniques, and abilities that put him on a completely different tier from anyone else in the war. Himawari. This is an interesting case. When Kurama was killed during the events involving Ishiki Otsutsuki, everyone assumed that was the end of the Nine Tails story. But tailed beasts don't stay dead. They resurrect after a period of time, and when Kurama came back, it didn't reform in some random location or get sealed into a new host by force. It chose to be reborn inside Himawari, Naruto's daughter. That detail alone makes her situation fundamentally different from every other Jinchuuriki we've discussed. And the point is, Himawari and Kurama were essentially friends before she ever became his host. Yeah, Kurama spent decades inside Naruto and became his closest partner. When Naruto had kids, Kurama was there for that too. Himawari was born while Kurama was still sealed in Naruto, which means she inherited trace amounts of Kurama's chakra from birth just by being Naruto's daughter. She grew up hearing stories about the Nine Tails, understanding it as part of her family's legacy rather than some monster to be feared. When Kurama was reborn inside Himawari's body, there was no need to build trust from scratch. It's like passing down a family heirloom, except the heirloom is a millennia-old chakra entity with enough power to level mountains. Himawari is a very promising ninja. She inherited the Hyuga and Uzumaki bloodlines from her parents, two clans that are descendants of Hamura and Hagoromo. When you combine that genetic lottery with Kurama's chakra, the compatibility goes beyond what anyone expected. Up to now, Himawari could already communicate with him in her subconscious at will. It just happened naturally because the foundation was already there. When Himawari taps into Kurama's power, the physical transformation mirrors what Naruto experienced, but with some unique differences. Her eyes turn red with vertical slits, dark rings form around them, her nails and canines sharpen, and her hair grows longer and thicker, flowing in 9 locks that look like tails. But here's what's wild. Despite being new to using this power, Himawari shows efficiency that shocked even someone like Jura, who noted that her potency feels more like a true tailed beast than a Jinchuuriki. She can fire tailed beast balls powerful enough to match opponents on that level. She has regeneration that heals catastrophic injuries in seconds with no scarring, and she can even extend that healing to others. That's an ability we've never seen from any other Jinchuuriki. The drawback is that repeated self-healing drains her stamina fast enough to make her pass out, but that's a training issue more than a fundamental limitation. She's functionally a perfect Jinchuuriki in terms of partnership and cooperation. But she's still young, still learning, and hasn't fully mastered the scope of what she can do yet. Now, honorable mention. There's one more name that deserves acknowledgement even though he technically doesn't make the list. Gaara of the Sand was Shukaku's Jinchuuriki for most of his early life, but his story went completely backwards compared to everyone else we've talked about. Where Himawari befriended Kurama before becoming a Jinchuuriki, Gaara befriended Shukaku after he stopped being one. When Akatsuki extracted the one tail from Gaara during the early parts of Shippuden, it killed him. He was brought back to life, but Shukaku was gone, sealed away in the Gedo statue and later freed after the Fourth Shinobi World War. Here's what makes Gaara's situation fascinating. During his time as Shukaku's host, their relationship was toxic, built on hatred and fear. Shukaku actively tried to take control and drive Gaara insane. But after the war, after both of them had grown and changed as individuals, they reconciled. Shukaku returned to Gaara willingly, and they formed the friendship that should have existed from the beginning. Gaara can now borrow Shukaku's power when needed, and the One Tail genuinely respects him. The catch is that Gaara isn't a Jinchuuriki anymore. Shukaku isn't sealed inside him. It's a cooperative partnership between two separate entities, rather than a host-beast relationship, which disqualifies Gaara from this list on a technicality. But if we're talking about achieving perfect harmony with a tailed beast, Gaara absolutely earned it. He just did it the long way around. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.